What's up, Buttercup? I'm Pam Barnes, marketing expert,
And I'm Hannah Cox, business strategist,
and this is the Go Getter Gals podcast.
where everyday gals grow together and you'll find resources to help you grow personally and professionally.
Hey, gals, my name is Pam Barnes, and this is Miss Emma Goff. It's like Emma Goff. And she is absolutely amazing. She owns Tristate Counseling and Consulting, and I cannot wait to hear all the wonderful things that she has to share today. And I know so many of you are going to grow from this story. So, Miss Emma, here's the first question. If your closest friends had to describe you in 3 words, what would they say? And would you agree?
Yeah, so I do a lot of journaling as a licensed professional counselor. So I was kind of journaling about this question because I thought, I would know exactly what my friends would say about me. So I actually listed in my journal, driven, honest, smart, like those are my 3 words, right? And then I thought I would kind of follow up and actually ask 2 of my friends before coming on this podcast today, just to see if there was alignment there. And I was genuinely surprised. The first friend said loyal, authentic, and empathetic. And then the second one had said loyal, dependable, and magnetic. And so what struck me when I like got the responses on that was that my words are very achievement based and achievement oriented. And they went to more relational descriptive words. And so that then tells me, how I see myself is in a certain way, right? But how I'm showing up for others is completely different. But then I think about their words, and that's definitely what I would want to be remembered for. So I agree with their words, and just kind of had insight of that the differences there between what I thought they would say and what they said.
That is amazing. I'm so glad that you actually investigated that because as women, we get busy, right? But the
Mhm.
fact of the matter that you investigated that and you're like, oh, this is something that I did not know about myself or I did not realize. And I love that you shared that. And we asked like a little icebreaker question in the beginning, gals that are watching this, because we want you to kind of get to know at a deeper, lower level of the women that are in front of you. Because Miss Emma's got a beautiful story, as we all do. And you listening to this have a beautiful story as well. And we always like to just get below the surface and really pull those stories out. So, Miss Emma, let's go ahead and go into like, what do you do?
Mhm. Yeah, so I am a licensed professional counselor and the founder of Tri-State Counseling Consulting. I'm also a national certified counselor as well. On the other side of that, I do a lot of clinical research on mental health. And so
Ooh,
that's one of my focus areas. And then I'm involved in a bunch of different leadership um, roles across different organizations that are mental health oriented. So when people actually ask me what I'm actually doing, I tend
mm,
to tell them that, that I help people process things that go left unsaid, and the things that usually sit in the dark so that they can then move more freely about in their lives and experience a little bit more peace, contentment, and joy. So that's what I actually do. But I also have several different roles that kind of are on the back side of that.
oh, I love that. I'm going to ask another little question because this brought something up. Um, how many people, like how many women, because you focus on women. I remember you saying that and you're going to go in more detail. Like you focus on women. How many women do you think have several things buried down that they're not talking about?
So that's a really great question. It reminds me a little bit of my meetings with clients. I had clients yesterday. Most of my clients are women, like 95% that I provide counseling services to. So I was doing an intake, which is just your initial assessment coming into counseling so I can get a full view of what's going on to support you. But I was doing an intake and they were saying, well, I'll start here. One of my questions is describe your social life to me so I can kind of gauge your support network for a client. And I had a client tell me, I don't really have a social life. I don't have a friend group. I know that that sounds bad and I don't have that kind of social context around me. And she was like, I feel like that's weird and whatnot. And I said, actually, what's interesting is everyone that I've seen in the past couple weeks for intakes, 95% have said the same thing. that they
Wow.
don't have a friend group, they don't really have a social life, that they don't have that sense of community. And then I said, and if they follow up with a response to that, that they have something there, it's usually like girlfriends that live far away, that they don't see regularly. They're in different life phases, so they don't connect as much. And so, I think a lot of things are left unsaid or in the dark when you think about like that social context and having connections with other women. And so kind of bringing that up, and then the other 5%, there's some wiggle room there. But I think there's more women have things in common than they think, is what I kind of gauge my full answer to what you've asked, is that there's more left unsaid because people think that women think it's like adverse, that they're the only ones like without a friend group. When in reality, I'm like, no, actually, like 95% of women that I've talked to have said, like, I don't have a friend group, you know? So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, it does. That brought tears to my eyes because that breaks my heart.
Well, and I think like in some of that conversation that I was having with that other woman, it's it's more, a lot of what I've seen, like 95% of women that don't really have a friend group, it's because of the day-to-day routine that people are going through. And so we were talking about how like you get home from work, you're exhausted. The last thing you're going to do is like go meet your girlfriends for a cocktail or dinner or whatever, or go to some kind of social event. Like it's hard when people get into the day-to-day routine to find that time. And so also they're almost normalizing some of that too, like that fatigue and exhaustion that women have to like try to maintain some kind of friend group, and those connections can be a lot.
It can, yes, it
Yeah.
can be mentally taxing,
Mhm.
especially if you don't feel like you have a safe, I hate saying safe space. I don't like that word. You probably have a better word, but a space where they feel like they can be themselves fully, where they don't have to have the shields up, where they can,
Yeah.
watch what they say and what they do and stuff like that. So,
Not be so, I call it like being on, like way they want to feel on, you
ooh,
know?
I like that.
So like there's a difference, like when you're at work, I guess depending on the context, right? When you're at work, you have to be on. Like you have a certain like professionalism about you. You present a certain person to everyone else in business and whatnot. But when you're at home and you're in like your sweatpants or your Adam Sandler clothes, right? Like you're not on. So it's
Mhm.
different. So I think women, like, it's hard to find other women to trust when not being quote on around.
That's good. That is not where I thought that question was gonna go, and I'm so glad you shared that because I know, I mean, that hit my heart, like, hard. So let's go a little lighter. Um, so you started a business recently, correct?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So what's the moment you decided to take this leap and do this? And what did that actually feel like?
So I might jump ahead just a little bit.
Mhm.
To be super honest here, the feeling was relief. That was
Oh,
like the immediate feeling I had, like starting Tri-State Counseling and Consulting. So I think about the moment happened a while ago. And to give a little context about, I was in a different position completely, in higher education. And the moment was internally, something had been brought to my attention, like within the job. And internally I felt out of control, which I think a lot of women experience that, like feeling out of control and just, what do I do? How do I deal with this? How do I cope with this? And so it felt internally chaotic with what was happening. And I thought in my head, what can I do that will be within my control, that aligns with things that I still value and still prioritize, things that are important to me? And my immediate thought was, well, I can't control some of these dynamics when I'm a W 2 employee for another organization. There's values that I kind of have to forfeit because of being in that position. Um, and so I thought, well, what I can control is how I spend my time and energy with my own business then. Like that's fully within my control.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not forfeiting those values anymore. And so that was kind of the moment that I decided in my head, okay, maybe it's time to start building something that is more in alignment as opposed to just going through the day by day and giving up things that I find important because of a position. So the feeling was relief. I think a lot of people expect me to say like terrifying and exciting, some of those words, and those are definitely there in a sense, but the first immediate feeling was relief. So to give a
Mm-hmm.
little context, I had spent 9 years in college. So I have my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and my PhD. And I received all those degrees to build a career to be in academia. And that really took a sharp turn when that moment happened that I was just referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because of that moment and everything thereafter, like I felt consistent disappointment, dissatisfaction
Mm.
most days, every day from there on out. And so when I finally decided, like, okay, I can build my own thing, my own business, it felt like I could take a breath again and finally, like, inhale. And like that whole feeling, like, I take a deep breath right now, like, I felt like I was betting all in on myself. And that feels very right because I know that I have every capability to shape my life exactly as I want it to be. So the relief overall, like I would explain is like really coming home to myself is what I felt. And
Mm-hmm.
what this just kind of brought to me, because being a counselor, I'm very like reflective when I like talk about some of these things. I I think that women get so caught up in roles and identities. We love to be like, okay, mom, wife, grandmother, business owner, entrepreneur. Like these are all roles and identities. And one thing I had to shed was a lot of career identity in those moments. And so I wanted to come up with something different for how I would, right, like characterize my new role. And yes, it's like founder clinician of Tristate Counseling and Consulting, but I threw up on my Instagram page in my bio because it used to say like professor, counselor, researcher, the roles, right? I came up with mental health architect as a different way to describe myself that would be more creating structures to support women in their well-being, which is mental health architect. I don't think a lot of people describe a counselor as, but I felt like it was okay. I get to define my own role. So let me define it like that, you know?
Oh, I love that you shared that because there are so many people out there that get degrees. I have a degree I don't even use.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
and I'm ex-military, so I didn't have to pay all the money into it, thank goodness. But I have friends of mine that spent all this money and they get into the job and they realize it's not what they thought it was. And they kept trying to fit and fit and fit. And they got angrier or sadder or,
Hmm.
just yeah. No, whoa, I love that you shared that. Oh my gosh, this is such a
Well,
good podcast.
and when I think about like, I spent 9 years in college for a career, and there are a lot of things in higher academia that I really loved and appreciated. So what could I build that still hits those values, that then gives me the independence and autonomy to shape my life the way I want it to be? So
Mm,
my example is like the things that I value career wise are leadership. I love to do research. Like that's like my passion. I love presenting research, collecting data, data analysis, writing manuscripts. All of that is like my jam. Um, Building systems and structure programs. So I actually have a graduate certificate in program evaluation, and then
mm,
also helping people. That's the counseling part. So I was doing helping people on the student side of academia. How can you then bring all of those things into the business? And that's professional consultation, which is part of Tri-State. That's continuing education, which is part of Tri-State. It's also counseling. And then I'm still doing the research on the side. So shifting those values into a different situation. that they're still
Mhm.
met and fulfilled while also getting me the autonomy to make what I want my life to be, you know?
Oh, yeah. I love that. Oh my goodness, gals. So if you are listening to this, honey buns, if there is something that you want to do and you are fitting in this, you are shoving yourself in this box that you do not fit in, you need to listen to this. You need to go back. You need to re-listen to all that because the path that you started doesn't have to be the defined path. You do not have to stay there if you do not want to be there, if you're not happy.
Yes. Well,
Oh my
and
goodness.
I think the part that right, like I said before, terrifying is a word that kind of comes up that I think people expect of me. And like I said, I see women for mental health support and counseling almost every day. And a lot of times people stay in the box out of fear. But what's scarier to me is to look back at my life and have regret of staying in that box. And I tell women, we have these conversations a lot, like, what if on the other side of all that fear, because what we're fearful of is uncertainty. Like, if we take the risks, we leave the job, we start the business, whatever it is, like, we're so scared of the uncertainty. But what if that uncertainty is the best chapter of your life and you never know because you stay in your box?
Mm, agreed. Oh my goodness, agreed. Wow. We're gonna end that question there because that you need to rewind that and go back and listen to that. Just that sentence. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So the next question I was going to ask, I'm going to rephrase it, same question, but I'm going to bring something up that you had discussed before off camera before we started recording, gals. This lovely lady in front of us, Miss Emma, she was talking about confidence not necessarily being something that she battles with. She feels more confident in a way. And for me, and if that is not you, please understand that's not me. Like I have battled with confidence most of my life and I still battle with it and I have the fear and all the fun stuff. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I would like to know if this next question is going to bring a story out to help maybe reframe some of that of why the confidence is so strong with you. So let's go with who believed in you? I want to ask this. Who believed in you before you believed in yourself and what did they say?
Mhm. So I think back, because you know, you had brought up like the self doubt and kind of like the confidence thing, and we were talking about that before, and I think a lot about my childhood.
Mhm.
So I had a very dysfunctional childhood with both parents in active addiction the entire time,
Mm,
and which kind of just made me the parent overall because like I was parenting my parents. But I think there's a couple of people that stand out to me in belief. So, although, like, my dad, he was an alcoholic, he also showed up in a supportive way of believing in me in any capacity, like, he just thought that I could do anything, but he
mhm,
showed respect towards me even as a kid to hear me out on things that I wanted to do or things I had interest in, even extending to like morals that I would kind of talk about, like more trying to figure out what morals looked like as a child. And he
uh-huh,
would still hear me out and listen. And we would have conversations about what I was thinking about. And he respected that, like as just a human to human kind of interaction. But the
mm,
other person that really stands out is my aunt. So that would be my dad's oldest sister. Straight from the get-go, you know, she kind of saved me from the dysfunctional childhood. So she played a role throughout it. And I think she definitely saw me like as a little girl that was very resilient, trying
mm,
to cope with parents that were addicts, um, and kind of working through the very dark shadows of parental addiction because I was an only child. I didn't have siblings. But
mm,
I think she saw that I would still show up and be a light for others, even when it was like super dark and chaotic at home. And so she never really like let me believe as a kid that where I was coming from in that those childhood dynamics would be where I was going in the future. She was always extremely supportive. Then I also think like bringing you up to speed to like this phase of my life, I have to fall back on my husband. Um, he supports me like unconditionally. He has an unwavering kind of love. And he's amazing. Like I think about what it's like to be married to me sometimes because I come home and I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna go do this. Like I just kind of come home with like these things, and they're usually life changing things. And he's just like, all right, like how can I help? Like every time he's not like, well, I don't know about that, or maybe you shouldn't do that, or there's none of that. It's just like, okay, like how can I help? So a great example of this is we are living down in Dothan, Alabama. And I was like, all right, like I remember the day we were out by the pool. I was like, all right, I'm gonna apply for like my PhD. So I'm gonna apply to PhD programs. I applied to 10 programs. And we were just at the pool. I have a picture from that day. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, we might have to move to Waco, Texas, so I can go to Baylor for my PhD, or we're going to have to move to Auburn, so I can go to Auburn for the PhD. And he was just like, oh, okay. And sure enough, like I went to Auburn for my PhD, and he picked up and moved with me and switched kind of career roles for himself and did something completely different for 2 years while I was in my program. So having that like unconditional support also helps with having them believe in me. And the other side of that is because I know firsthand what it means to have someone that sees you and believe in you, that's how I want to show up for other women. And that's what I try to do in some of the counseling is so other women feel that they have someone that believes in them and they can take a different step or a different chapter.
Girl, you got me crying again.
Yeah. That's okay.
That's my love language. I cry. That's how well, it's not my love language, but that's how I express
Mhm.
my emotions. And I've shared this in several podcasts. And the reason is because we're all emotional beings. We all are. And I know every single woman listening to this has heard you're too much or you're too emotional
Yeah.
throughout their life. And the fact of the matter is we're all emotional. We just share it in different ways. I've got one friend that cries. We cry together. It's great. And then I have
Yeah.
another friend and she laughs at everything. Like that's what she does. And then I've got another one that just gets angry. Like she just has to be angry for a little while kind of thing. So anyways, with all that being said, like I love that you're sharing this because there are
Yeah.
so many women out there that can relate to this and
Mhm.
feel alone and lost and
Yeah.
confused and oh my gosh.
Well, and
And I just love
you t-
this.
you touched on something really important there, like the being too much or too emotional. And that's also something I hear a lot in counseling sessions. Like, I can't talk about this because my husband says that I'm overly sensitive. That's a big one that I hear. Or like,
Mhm.
I'm dramatic, I'm over dramatic, or I am too sensitive in this way. And like, there's a lot more processing that goes with this in counseling sessions. But most of the time, those descriptor words have come from other people
Mhm.
characterizing you a certain way, and women then take that and internalize it and believe it. When in reality, it's maybe you're not like too sensitive. Maybe it's just that you've had all of these circumstances throughout your entire life that build up to a cumulative effect of this is how you now respond. And
Mm.
all of those circumstances and experiences like make sense as to why like you might be upset or another woman has an anger response because it's
Mhm.
an entire history of a life behind that creates that response. But most of the time when we use like those descriptors, right, of like I'm too dramatic, it's like no, someone's told you that about yourself. Do you actually believe it? Or
Mm.
or do you think that you're being dramatic when in reality, when you've had all these experiences of chaos, and that's actually contributing to how you're navigating certain things?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And that
I think
goes
women believe what other people have labeled them or told them about themselves.
mhm.
So I'm like, "Do you actually believe you're too sensitive?" Like, I'll ask clients that, and they're like, "Well, no." And I'm like, "Can you provide me examples of when you were dramatic?" And it's all moments, like, when someone else has told them they were being dramatic, not when they felt that they were dramatic.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm.
You know, here this goes into the next beautiful question that gals, you need to be listening 'cause this is a good one. What do you believe about yourself today that you didn't a few years ago?
So, I really like this question. Like I said, I journal a lot, so I journaled a lot about these questions, but what I kinda came to with this is that there's nothing I can't do.
Mm,
And I wanna be very clear, I didn't always think that. Like, I didn't always believe that about myself. Um, there was definitely a version of myself that second guessed whether I was capable enough to do things or whether I had belonged in certain rooms or a seat at certain tables. Like,
mhm,
that woman still exists in my past. But I think somewhere along the way of navigating the last year, I think that shifted completely for me. Um, I've realized that I truly have the capacity to learn anything and make that happen. And whether it's like picking up coding, like back end coding on websites,
oh, yes.
or learning how to pick certain stocks in the stock market and knowing the differences between what stocks and what EFTs are, right?
Mhm,
Or trying something new on the grill, on the Traeger grill outside. Like, if it's of interest to me, I can figure it out. Like, it goes along with that, like, where there's a will, there's a way, right?
mhm.
And so I think that belief then is honestly how, tri-state counseling consulting became possible, is from that belief. And building a business requires you to do 100 things you've never done before.
Yes.
So you then have to
Yes.
trust you're going to figure it out and go and do it. Like, you have to believe that I have the capability to figure it out. And that
Mm.
internal belief will just, I think, spur things further or push it further.
Yes, yes, and let's give some different examples too to kinda help with that because I'm a business owner too, and I completely relate to that, but some of our listeners may not. So here's one, you can be a mom. There's women out there that didn't have that mom figure or to look up to, and they find themselves pregnant. You can be the mom that you wanna be. You can figure out what that looks like. That's the whole
Mhm.
journey of being a mom, is figuring out what that looks like. Another one is going into a new career, a new job. I love that you shared, putting yourself in rooms that you felt previously that you didn't belong in. Oh my gosh, we talked about that 2 podcasts ago. Gals, there are so many rooms in there, like so many rooms out there that you belong in that you're not putting yourself in. There's so many jobs and opportunities out there that you could put yourself in that you are being called to do. What is in here? I
Mm,
really firmly believe what is in here is what you're supposed to be doing. Follow what does Les Brown say? Les Brown says, follow the song your heart sings
mhm.
and you will have your destiny kind of thing. So it's like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So good, so good, so good.
Well, and I think if you have the drive to want to learn, then, like, the world is your oyster. True. Like, if you just have the interest to learn something, that's I think part of the big game changer. Whether it is like going into motherhood, right? Or,
Mhm.
you don't know how to be a romantic partner because your
Ooh, that's
parents never had a healthy relationship. So you're scared to enter into getting married maybe because you didn't have the modeling as a child.
mm,
But you can learn. So as long as you have that small piece of you that wants to learn to do better, then you have the capacity to figure it out. It's just
mhm.
trying to find if you have that piece that wants to learn and grow.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, yes, yes.
Hey gals, if you love what you're hearing and you want to get more involved, because trust me, I love Go Getter Gals. I'm obsessed with it. If you love this podcast as much as we do, all you have to do is go on our Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, and we're under Go-Getter Gals. We are going to have all of our episodes on the podcast link on our website at go-gettergals.com. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt for just a second. We look forward to continuing to help you grow. Without further ado, here's the Go Getter Gals podcast.
So you're an entrepreneur now, you have your business, and self-doubt. We've already talked about how you feel about the self-doubt and the confidence, but let's go a little deeper on this one. For entrepreneurship or doing something new, there is typically self-doubt and fear and all that wonderful stuff. What was your experience? And did something else show up instead?
hmm Yeah, I think so. I think I've had a very adverse kind of experience. Self-doubt, it's not a big part of my story, but I also think about like the, parental addiction and living in chaos growing up and whatnot, where there there wasn't a lot of room for self-doubt because it was a matter of like survival mode of like make a choice then and there. Like, what are you going to do to survive? There's no room for uncertainty about choice making or doubting a choice when you're in that childhood dynamic. It's just, you got to go and you got to figure out what you're going to do to keep your head up. And so, kind of bringing that up to now, I think what showed up instead for me more recently is frustration. Um, I think there's been disappointment in myself and a lot of disappointment in others, but I think that's just more all kind of oriented towards frustration with circumstances that weren't aligned with who I knew myself to be in the moment. And so doubting my own ability wasn't coming to the front as much, but I had a little bit more of like the opposite issue that I was so certain of what I was capable of that could almost like force me to stay in that box because having that belief that you can do anything, it's like, okay, well, I can force myself to stay in the box. Like I can get through
Mhm.
this. I can minimize and work around whatever the dynamics are currently because I have the capability to do that. So I'll stay in the box. But that then just keeps you small. So taking some of that frustration and using that as fuel to make change is what then pushed me to build something of my own, of being like, I'm frustrated of actually being in the box. I don't need to believe in myself for something negative like this that could cause regret. I need to use this frustration to like fuel me in a different direction.
Mm, that's good. That's good. Again, we all have different emotions that come up from what we went through in life. Mine, when I started my business, I let's see, I was 30 and I was living the life that everyone around me defined me as, and I was depressed. And I was thinking, there's got to be something different.
Yeah.
There's got to be something different there. And I've got to find it. So I started looking into YouTube and I found Les Brown and Brene Brown and Zig
Oh, I love
Ziglar
Renee
and
Bruce.
Jim Brown. Oh my gosh, I love
Yeah.
Brene Brown. I
Like
tell
we love
everyone,
the daring leadership. Yeah. I've read
yes.
some
Oh,
of her books.
have you watched her first podcast of vulnerability that came out in 2013?
I don't think I've seen that one. No.
Oh, it wasn't
Okay.
a podcast. It was a TED Talk. So sorry.
Okay.
It's a TED Talk.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm ex-military, and I tell everyone that
Yeah.
have PTSD or ex-military experience
Mhm.
or they had a rough childhood, they got to watch that because it's going to change it. Oh my gosh, it changed my life. It really
Well,
did.
and
It
I
changed my
think
life.
I can very much relate to what you were saying about like, being kind of down. I call it being in the pit when you're in the pit and it's
Mm,
real dark in there. And you can be in this pit and stay in the pit. I know I used a box as like a metaphor earlier. I think that that's why I can't say before starting Tristate, I was really having a lot of self-doubt because it couldn't get any worse with where I was. Like,
mm,
so I couldn't afford self-doubt because I had to believe there was light at the top of the pit somewhere. I had to believe
mm,
it, that it had to get better at some point.
Mm,
And that light is this business. But when you're in such a dark place and you want things to get better, you almost put walls up against any form of self-doubt because you've got to believe that your life is worth so much more than that pit. So you can't even doubt it because you can only crawl out of that pit. You can't go further down.
that is true. That is true.
Mhm,
Um, so we talked about self-doubt. Let's talk about fear for a minute.
mhm.
Um, what's a fear you still wrestle with even now? Because we don't
Yeah.
all have it all together, right? Like
No,
we're here helping people grow. That
yeah.
no, we do not have it together. Okay. So
No,
what's
no
a
one has it all
fear?
together. Um, I think that, like, my fear is more about letting old patterns in my past behaviors, like, my fears related to bringing those into the business. Um, More about, like, work-life boundaries, and something I didn't have before starting the business was no work-life boundaries. Like, pulling
Mm,
all-nighters and being so super stressed out all the time, not sleeping, not eating, not taking care of myself, like, putting my marriage on the backside sometimes for
mhm,
work, not spending time with my fur babies, that they need to have time, like, outside and just affection and whatnot. I wasn't doing that. So that was an issue of work-life balance. So I think my fear is also bringing that same energy into the current business of my work-life boundaries again, is that letting that consume everything in me again. And in actuality, right, like, I built the business so I didn't have that, like, have where my life was only work. I built some things so I could live a personal life and have work-life balance, but the fear is that it could still come up.
mm. Yes, yes. We I to add to that, I believe that we are on a discovery. And again, you don't have to believe what I believe, but I really feel like in from childhood to when we no longer are on this world, that we grow into finding ourselves. We grow into growing into the person that we're meant to be kind of situation. So I love that you're sharing that because we have these battles that we're going to battle our entire lives. And I love another thing that we haven't brought up today, but generational curses, like breaking some of those generational curses. Like we can break as many as we possibly can in our lives, but we still are going to have some or create some because life is just messy.
Well, and, like, the side of that, right, like, I've talked about parental addiction and my parents being addicts. The wildest part of the connections that I made in my last role before Tri-State is that I I was an addict in the sense that I was addicted to work. So
Mm,
it wasn't substances and or alcohol like my dad, it wasn't those things, but I carried on the same pattern behavior. Mine just looked different where I was addicted to working.
mm,
And so breaking that, that's why that fear's there, right? Like the work-life balance and having boundaries for myself around work is because I'm then trying to break that curse where the pattern behaviors still were passed down. It just looked different.
mm,
It wasn't a substance problem. It was a work overly working, consistent, like 60 hours a week for years.
mm. Yeah, I have that. That's
So,
one of my
like,
I battle with.
yeah, it's not the same exact addiction, but the addictive tendencies, like you said, generational curses, they were
Mhm,
still there, and and I think some people would say like, "Oh, like being addicted to work, how bad can it be?" It can ruin your entire life, really, because you can lose relationships, and
mm,
never get them back because all you do is work. You can lose you can lose your health by not eating and not sleeping.
and the stress of it. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we talked about the fear. Now let's talk about how would you tell someone else to overcome the fear because it's so easy to tell someone else how to help themselves and not to help ourselves. So if you're relating to any of this stuff, let's talk about how we can overcome it.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to lean into what your values are. What are the things that you value in your life? And then finding opportunities that align with those values. Um, to kind of put it in a little bit more deeper perspective, asking yourself the question, when I'm 80 years old and looking back at my life, what are the things that I'm going to be proud of for myself? And what are the things I'm going to regret? And I know that can be challenging, but making decisions that you can be proud of when you're 80 years old. And there may be 80-year-olds listening to this that, are looking back. But for me, before Tri-State, like I thought that I would be, this is the point that I was at in my dark pit, right? Like I thought I'm going to be 80 years old and regret that I worked my life away, if I even made it to 80 years old, not eating or sleeping, like I'm going to regret potentially losing my marriage, never having a child, because that was going to be a sacrifice, not spending time with my dogs, losing my home potentially because of the marriage and the relationships, losing friendships. Like I was going to look back and regret that I worked my entire life away. But now that like I picked me and betted on myself, like I'm going to be 80 years old and say, I chose myself. And now I did things from here on out that aligned with the things that I value, like making it to watch the sunset and trying to learn how to be a DJ and planting things in my garden and spending time with my husband and, playing with my dogs outside, playing fetch because we just run the dogs. Like I get to be present. I don't think I'll ever regret leaving a job that would have consumed my entire life. But I would have regretted being too stuck in that box, staying in that role for my entire life and losing out on everything.
That's good. Are you listening to that, gals? You need to go back. Because regret it's full in the graveyard. In the graveyard, it's full of regret. There's so much.
Well, and I think of like what is the word when you can't put a monetary value on something? Priceless. Yeah. So like tuning into that piece of like the things that are priceless to me are spending time with my soul dog and her brother, like things that are priceless are my marriage. Like I can always get a job. I can always figure out a way to make some money. But the things that are priceless were going to be the things that I was going to sacrifice for a job.
Mm. Good, good, good. Oh my goodness, gals. Here's a good segue into this question. What's one thing you wish someone would have told you one day that would have saved you a lot of this pain that we've talked about? Because we always say, I wish if I could say something to my younger self, I would say this. Like, what is that one thing you wish someone would have told you?
I think it's, the detour's part of the journey. We've kind of
Mm,
talked about that already, but
good.
I spent a lot of time grieving this job that I spent 9 years preparing for.
Mm,
And, when in reality I think about it now, that disappointment was quietly redirecting me towards something more aligned with who I am. So
mhm,
I spent so much time grieving roles, like identity roles that I had built up to, as opposed to seeing it as like, this is just a redirection. And sometimes, like, when we have a scary option and the comforting option, like the W-2 job for me was the comforting, easy option, but the scarier option was to build something of my own. The one that's most challenging when you have those choices, the scariest one, pick that one because that's the one that's probably going to be more fulfilling
mhm,
long term. You're going to be The uncomfortable option is the one where you're going to grow the most, the chapter that's going to have the biggest reward at the end. And so if I had understood some of that sooner, I think I would have spent less time mourning what wasn't working and more time running toward what was waiting for me on this other side.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. You got me tearing up again. I'm telling you, gals, I'm telling you, there is nothing that you can't do. And it is your story. And I relate to everything you just said because I did not want to start a women's group. I'm telling you, I didn't. It was not in my path of what I wanted to do. But and it's just because it's scary. Gosh, it's so scary. And I had the doubt of, well, what makes me so special? I'm just a country gal from Lynchburg, Tennessee. I probably have Jack Daniels in my blood. Like it's deep in my roots. We're
Right.
backwoods country. And what makes me valuable enough to be able to help these women grow kind of situation. And I just had to just decide to try, just to
Mhm.
do it and try. And I've got to tell you, gals, I have seen so many women grow from this group just in the little tiny community of go getter gals. I've seen women apply for jobs. I've seen women start businesses. I've seen women become stronger parents, better mother or not better wives, prioritize, have stronger boundaries. Like you sharing that, I am so glad you shared that. And I'm so glad you're on this podcast because women need to hear this. Like we need to hear that we're not alone and that what we're fearing is just substantial and that we can do it. And um, grieving what the loss of what we have, like moving and getting a different job and, loss in the family. Like it's all grief. Like it's all grief. All of it is. It's just got a different face to it, but it still hurts and it's still hard. And stepping into that next step and doing something that's outside of your comfort zone. I mean, there is grief there because you're letting go of the person that you are today to be the person that you are destined to be. And oh my goodness. Like I love this podcast episode so much.
Well, and it's interesting that you phrased all of that because so my specialty in counseling is grief. It's
Mm,
grief, trauma, and major life adjustments, which all usually go hand in hand. And that's what I support women when I talk about clients, that's who I'm supporting is women that are going through grief, whether it's death losses, identities, divorces, new jobs, like it's all of those things. And that's what I try to help other women cope with and process and so that they can move forward.
mm. So this is the perfect segue.
Mhm.
What do you want women listening to this to take from your story that you shared today?
So I think I'd like women to take 3 points. First, the huge thing is that healing is possible. No matter how bad things are, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it may not feel like it, but having hope that there is healing is a big piece of that. So that's the first huge thing. There's always room for healing. The second thing is that the people who believe in you before you believe in yourself are always worth holding on to and honoring. And the way that you honor them is through that other chapter at times.
Mm,
The third big thing that I want women to think about is that building something of your own, whether that's a business, a life, a next chapter, even a new belief, an internal belief about yourself, um, is one of the most powerful things that you can ever do. And so that's what Tristate kind of represents to me. Like my business represents to me. And I hope that that then resonates with someone else that's listening to this.
mm. So, are you accepting any new clients? Because my next question is, how can they get in touch with you? Because I am sure there's many women listening to this, please, that are like, I need your
Yeah.
help. So, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am taking clients. I do right now I'm doing telehealth counseling. We'll transition to offer in person in the near future. But the way to kind of get in contact with me is you can go to the website. It's www.tristate counselingconsulting.com. So it's just tristatecounselingconsulting.com. You
Mm.
can submit a request through there that sends me a direct notification that, you're interested in support. The other ways to kind of get a hold are emailing. So it's contact@tristatecounselingconsulting.com. So again, that's just contact@tristatecounselingconsulting.com. Or you can also reach out to me by texting or calling, which is 334-336-4468. So again, that phone number is 334-336-4468. So that's the business line.
Thank you so much for sharing this.
Mhm.
This has been such an amazing podcast, and I am going to be reeling on this one for hours. I'm going to call my co host and I am going to let her know all of this because you have pumped me up. You've excited me because there are so many women out there that need encouragement and love and acceptance. And you just poured all of that. And gosh, I love that so much. And we're going to end it with the question that I ask every single woman that comes on this podcast because it's so important because our life is such a beautiful story. And in order for us to live the life that we've always wanted to, we have to really hone in on this question, or I feel like we do.
Yeah.
It's helped me change my entire life. And I know it's probably affected yours as well. So the question is, what does legacy mean to you?
Mhm. So I think legacy is very personal. Growing up in that chaotic household, someone saw enough in me to support me. And I'm thinking about my aunt that she didn't do that for recognition. She did it because she believed in who I could become in the future. And so that's the legacy then that I would want to leave for other women. I want every woman that I work with and every clinician that, Tri-State trains and supports to feel the same thing, that someone believed in them before they could believe in themselves. And so that's kind of, I think, the heart of what legacy is for me.
Mm. Well, gals, I couldn't have said it any better. Like, Emma, thank you so much for being on here. I mean,
Well,
from
and
the
I
bottom of my
can I
heart.
add one thing?
Oh, yeah, there was one other
And
question.
I forgot. Oh, not it wasn't even the question. It's there's also a Facebook page that I am posting resources on. I know we talked about like kind of how some of these things are validating to other people. I
Mhm.
actually just posted on Tri-State Counseling Consulting Facebook statistics about how long it takes for women to find help and how long it
Mhm.
takes for them to make a career change and how long it takes. So I am posting things on there that are resources to support women. So, you know, not everyone's ready to talk to a counselor or get some like consultation stuff, but it's a follow and then getting free resources from that, which is easier and available and accessible. So I'm
I
sorry
love
to
that.
interrupt you. I know.
No. That's great. That's great. What's the Facebook page?
If you just in the search bar Tri-State Counseling Consulting, it should come right up. The symbol is like a wax navy emblem and it has like the Tri-State logo in it. And
Hmm.
so giving that a follow and just there's resources and stuff posted on it weekly, just things to be helpful.
Yes. And if you can't find it, because on Facebook, I own a marketing agency. If you can't find something, here is the biggest way to be able to find it is to type in the city that business is in, and it's more likely to be able to find it. Yeah, Facebook is just extra some days. Me and Facebook, I don't. Yeah. But
Mhm.
anyways,
Yep.
well, thank you so much, Emma, for being on here. I, from the bottom of my heart, I mean, this has been such a amazing episode. And gals, if you are relating to any of this, I challenge you to overcome what you've got going on and really grow into the woman that you deserve to be, and the people around you deserve to see. That is important kind of situation. That is anyway, that's just so important. So have a beautiful rest of your day, and we'll see you at the next podcast.
Hey, gals! Thank you for listening to the Go Getter Gal podcast. All of the information for this episode can be found in the show notes. Make sure that you go and like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube. And to find the latest episodes of the Go Getter Gal podcast, you can visit our website at go-gettergals.com. See you next time.